how did you feel the conditioning stint went? How happy are you to see that it appeared to be successful?
First of all, really excited to see him get back on the ice and do what he loves to do. I think the 2 games in Loveland were successful because Gabe was on the ice and was able to play, whether 14 or 15 minutes in both nights, and we were able to glean some information on how it would respond, and I think it was a really good for him mentally as much as seeing where he's kind of at. Obviously, the conditioning part is going to be a work in progress, right? He's just now starting to, as you saw, he was out on the ice today in practice, and that should only improve, as we dig in. As you guys know, practice time is like gold the last 6-7 weeks of the season, and I think what that afforded him was some consistent day-to-day ice that we weren't able to give him here. But I thought it was really good to see him on the ice, obviously, and a successful weekend for sure.
Gareth, then Jesse.
Chris, when you answered questions about Gabe, like 2 or 3 days before the trade deadline, you had a quote in there, and it was something along the lines of like, "You guys can see where this is going. He hasn't practiced, and he's not joining practice in the next day or week or whatever." Like, did something change since then, or am I just making too much of that quote?
No, I think he wasn't ready to play anytime soon at that point, right? We were still, he wasn't ready to join practice. He certainly wasn't anywhere close to being able to go on a conditioning stint. So I think now we're gaining more. Every week we gain more, almost every day we gain more information, to be honest. He just did something that he didn't do in 3 years. He played a game, and then he played a game the next night. So now it's read and react and see how he is in the morning and go from there, day by day.
Jesse.
We kind of just answered what I was going to ask. Taking it day by day, are you guys feeling confident that you'd be able to see him in this playoffs here?
Again, day by day, Jess. It's we're not going to get into whether it's Gabe Landeskog or Parker Kelly or anybody. We're not going to get into day by day lineup decisions on any player. So, but for Gabe, honestly, it is day by day. We're getting information every day to see. These are all new milestones for him, believe it or not. Something that, I think he obviously didn't take for granted, but he played hockey, right? For many, many years, and now he's got to see how he's coming off a very unique situation that he's had to deal with for 3 years, and what he's trying to do is incredible. So, but yes, today was I didn't talk to him, but hopefully he's going to feel good after practice today, and we'll see what tomorrow holds.
Colleen, then Pat.
If he plays, do you guys have to activate him off LTIR, or in the playoffs is that?
There's paperwork that it would have to be filed, yes.
Colleen, then Pat.
What does it say to Coach Bednar's abilities to have brought this team from the adversity that he's dealt with all season and 49 different players on his roster to the playoffs?
Well, I think how I feel about our coaches, but I think Jared does a great job. I think he's thoroughly prepared. I think he has a good connection with all of our players. I think he's done a great job for many, many years. So in terms of the number of players, I think that's just one of those years where whether we were healthy or somewhat healthy or healthier than what we were this year, I still, I don't think that's sort of how I would gauge, Jared as a coach. Do I think it presented some challenges for our entire staff? Yeah, I do. But I think, the way they prepare sort of day by day, the group that's in front of them, next man up kind of philosophy to gather points however we can is, I think, not only Jared, but I think our players, as an extension of the coaching staff, do a heck of a job for us.
Pat, then Sean.
Thank you for doing this. Given where Val was basically this time last year and the progress he's made to this point now, I guess how would you assess him on and off the ice and going forward into the playoffs?
Well, on the ice, I think Val's a force. I think he's, we've said it. You guys watch, as well as I do, his importance to our lineup. He's a unique, powerful two-way winger that touches every part of our game. 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill. So his importance is vital. In terms of the off-ice stuff, I got the utmost confidence and faith in Val. I think he's done a great job, and look forward to having successful playoffs here.
Sean?
I'm just gonna piggyback off your last question there, Chris. What do you say to fans who say, we love Val, can we trust him? Knowing how important he is for the reasons you mentioned.
Well, I think it's Val and what he's done day to day in terms of dealing with a tough situation, a tough personal situation, and I think the organization continues to support Val. But I look at what he's done on the ice and what he's had to go through, and again, have the utmost faith in him that he's in a great place and he'll continue to grind it out here for us and be a good player.
Mark and then Evan.
As a championship contender, how much better do you feel about this group from 2 points, game one, and from the time of the Mikko trade?
Well, I think, this was a challenging year in a lot of respects. Obviously, there was a lot of moving parts and things that we had to make some tough decisions on. And but I think from day one, I think we're a better team. I think we're a deeper team overall. I think some of the pieces, we traded some really good hockey players, obviously, and it's a different kind of mix. I think we can. We're sort of a still attack team, but I'm proud of the way we defend, and I think we've got two capable guys in the net that are there when we need a big save or we have an off night. I think our goalies are capable of keeping us in games and letting us find our way type of thing. So I like down the stretch. I like some of the ways we won, the different ways we won. We're going to need to be good. We've historically been a good power play team. I think those 5-on-5 becomes a little bit more, the power plays are harder to come by certain nights in the playoffs. So I think 5-on-5 is going to be key, and I think we're going to have to be dangerous offensively. But hopefully with some of the new additions, that when it's a low-scoring, tight-checking, ground-and-pound type of game, down low, bigger bodies, that sort of thing, hopefully we can win, show that we can win in different ways.
From game one, did you have any idea there'd be this much work to do
No.
on this roster?
No.
Evan?
Summer decisions are summer decisions, but when it comes to evaluating like unrestricted free agents or guys that could get extensions, how much do you weigh playoff performance compared to what you've seen in the regular season?
It's a good question. I think it's certainly part of the equation, right? It's the most important time of the year. You got to be careful, though. Playoffs can be, you don't want to make big decisions based on, 5 games in the playoffs type of thing. But, we're looking forward to, seeing our guys, assessing all of them, really. You get good information. It's the most exciting time of the year. So we're definitely looking forward to these, to the playoffs starting, that's for sure.
Corey?
Given all the moves that you've made, and then even with some of the injuries at the end of the year here, you haven't had like your 20 that you won. Leaving Gabe out of it, you still haven't had the 20 that you won with even for more than like a dozen games or whatever it was this year. How do you sort of assess that going into this? Like we just don't necessarily know how it's all going to fit together, or if it's going to work, right?
Yeah, listen, we're not the only team that's had to deal with injuries. Maybe when you do a deep dive and you look at it, maybe this year was a little bit more of a year for the Avalanche to have some injuries. But no, we don't talk about that daily. Bedsy coaches the 18 skaters that are, suiting up, and the 2 goalies, and we go with what we got. It's you can't stress about that, right? But, it can be stressful when you're going through it in the muck, but everybody has injuries. Unfortunately, everybody's going to have injuries, battling through. There's very few guys that aren't dealing with something. So for us, it's not something that we feel sorry for ourselves about or anything. Every team has somebody banged up or going to be playing banged up. So it's a results-oriented business. So that's where all the teams are at, I think, heading into this weekend.
Got time for a couple more? Anyone else? Jesse?
You mentioned you weren't expecting to have to make this many types of moves, and I'm sure there was a lot of times where it was stressful and dealing with a lot of moving parts, but is there any level of this was a fun year for you, getting to tinker with the roster this much?
I don't know if I'd characterize it as fun. I think we'd have to, you try and do what you feel is best for the logo, right, and for where you're at in your cycle. And I think our guys, showed, kind of the metal that they're made of, and we felt these things made sense. So I think, ultimately that's where it came down from. But in terms of, I think the fun part is the process, right? And if you feel good about the process, then that's what lets you put head to pillow, I think, down easier. So.
Okay, thank you very much.